Here's a lady preparing fish and chicken for tonight to sell at the night markets or some of the roadside stores around Phnom Penh. You know, probably like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. Street food. Now, that chicken absolutely stinks. See, it's covered in flies, and that must have been, it has to be at least 2 or 3 days old, and covered in flies, and you've got the intestines from the chicken and the fish, but just take my headgear off. But look at that chicken, you know, and this is what you get in your cheap street food. And the smell is absolutely disgusting. And this will be sold tonight in a chicken roll or, you know, chicken soup or something. And you wonder why you get sick after eating, you know, cheap street food. It costs $1 or $1.25. And you know, absolutely stinks. It's actually rotten chicken that will be cooked tonight, and some spices and curries added. But it's only like 9:30 in the morning, and this won't be prepared and sold until, you know, after 5 o'clock tonight, and it'll be sitting here in all day sun. Get a bit closer. If you had smell-o-vision, you could smell that chicken that's been sitting there. It's almost rotten. Well, it is rotten. And she's preparing everything, and all that chicken down there and all this here will be added to these bread rolls here. So she'll be selling chicken, you know, chicken bread rolls, you know, for $1 on Riverside. And using that chicken there. So, good luck to anyone who eats it. This lady is doing the frogs. Doing frogs for sale. So they're frogs, and at least the fish are alive. Yeah, frogs. Yeah. People like frogs. They're not taken from the wild. They are bred on farms. So they're not being taken from the wild. So, you know. Now the frogs are 10,000 real, which is the local currency, and if you want to convert that to US dollars, it's $2.50. So 10,000 real or $2.50 for 1 kilo of frog. But then we have the chicken, which is you know, turning yellow, and was probably prepared yesterday. So we're back in the poverty areas of Phnom Penh, where they prepare street food, and really appalling conditions. Really appalling conditions around here, and you got just the meat just hanging up there. And I've just given her one of my business cards with YouTube on, so she can see herself on YouTube. But you know, it's 8 a.m. in the morning, and it's, you know, it's getting pretty warm, and the meat will just hang here all day. So you can see the conditions the street food is prepared in. These girls are like just eating like a cupful of rice. I've got a female Khmer partner with me, and she does all the translating. Hello. So I've got permission to do all over here, but here we've got all those, you know, the shellfish vendors in the full sun, preparing all their shellfish. You know, these have been cooked this morning, and they'll be in all day sun. So what she's doing is picking out the ones that are, you know, not fit for human consumption, but really they all aren't fit for human consumption, only if you're like, you know, Khmer and your immune system is, you know, used to it. Westerners would be violently ill. So we're giving them a cup of chop so we can have a full. This is her house here. This is her house here. Hello. So this is what they live in, and we're right over the sewer drain. So the stench in here is pretty terrible. Right underneath them is the sewage system going out, and it's an open drain. So they've just got the normal, just flat tin roof, so it'll be the heat in here during the daytime and nighttime will be extreme heat in here. So this is what we're looking at, and these are the people's houses over the open Phnom Penh city sewer system that hasn't been covered in and it's open, and you've got people living like the fringe dwellers, you call them, really, and it's absolutely disgusting, the smell. And of course all their sewage just goes straight underneath these houses, and the water is absolutely, you know, absolutely polluted with human waste. Right, I've just been given permission to film inside this house. I know the music's pretty loud, but Now you can see the living conditions here, the open spaces that are actually open over the open sewer drain. And this is their, you know, the smell in here is terrible. But you can see the open floorboards that are right underneath the open sewer system. And they sleep over there at night, and I'm a bit afraid because the boards are pretty thin that I might fall in, so I'm not going to go any further. So this is, you know, the type of house these fringe dwellers live in. They don't own the land, they don't own anything, they've just built their house over the city sewer system. They're having breakfast at 8 a.m. in the morning. And you can see they're drinking Cambodian beer for breakfast. Cambodian beer for breakfast.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, that's a good breakfast. An Australian breakfast.
The breakfast.
Yeah, I'm from Australia, but I've been living in Phnom Penh for, you know, almost 18 years. So I'm just coming down to film you know, the fringe dwellers of Phnom Penh. And when you look in the distance here, you know, you see the modern Phnom Penh where people are paying, you know, $400, $500, $600 a month rental, and then you come down to
Where is he?
where the poor live from, fringe dwellers.
My friend.
My friend.
Yeah.
So we'll go on a bit further. This man is taking the bark off sugarcane, and that's actually sugarcane, and he'll take all the bark off and then they put it through a press and out comes sugarcane. So he's just taking the bark off, but in the background you can see the sugarcane. That's the sugarcane here. That's been taken from the sugarcane fields, and he gets it delivered. He'll put it through a press and all the sugarcane juice will come out. So if you don't know what where sugar comes from, you've never seen sugar cane before, well, this is it. And you know, in the commercial factories, it's all done by machinery, and it's all pressed and the juice comes out and you've got the sugar. So that's what it looks like. So this is what the sugar cane looks like if you've never seen it before. So they harvest it, and he'll cut it into pieces, and it ends up like that, and he'll put it through a press and the juice will come out. But in the factory, it's done in, you know, huge quantities, you know, thousands of tons. But here he's just an individual. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Good man. And that's his wife, and this is where he lives in there.
We are all my friend.
He's just given me permission to film inside the house, and his wife is also doing it, but this is, you know, really extreme poverty, and right underneath them is the open sewer drain where the Phnom Penh sewer flows into the open drain. So she's preparing the sugar cane inside here, but this is their mega possessions, you know. It's and they sleep here, and at least they've got some covering on the floor to stop the, you know, try and stop the smell from coming through. but this is all they own. This is it. That's their mega possessions. Then down below, you've got the open sewer system underneath the house. Thank you, sir. Thank you for showing me your house. Thank you, good man. In these pots, this is where they cook these small shellfish. You know, and they just leave them out in the all-day sun. Yeah, and it could be 2 or 3 days before they sell them all. And they just will, what's left over, they'll push to one end and put new ones on there, and they'll just keep on selling the old ones until they've all gone. And right next, you know, that's just the open sewer system there. And the stench is absolutely terrible here. And here's a man preparing some over here. We're going to have a look. So all that powder that he's putting in there is actually like a preservative to cut down the smell, and also MSG to try and retain the flavour or the smell of it being fresh. So they put all these chemicals in there, MSG and other like type of preservative to try and keep them fresh longer and to cut the smell down. So they just put them on here to dry out, and then you put them on the carts. And you know, if you're living in a Western country, that shellfish, you know, and seafood, chicken, pork, you know, gets contaminated, you know, very, very quickly, and just sitting in the all-day sun for days is, you know what would happen to your stomach or your health if you ate these. You don't know when you cooked them, or you know, when you see them on the streets, you don't know if they were cooked yesterday or 2 days or 3 days ago. And adding all those chemicals, it just cuts down the smell, and the MSG keeps the seafood flavour, smell in them. But really, you know, I can't really say much more about this, you know, you understand what's happening. This is where they finally put them on to the stainless steel trays, which are, you know, already very, very hot to handle. Well, it's like 8:30 in the morning now, and they put the shellfish on there, and here's one that's got the shellfish on, and that, you know, if I put my hand on that, that is really, really, really hot. You know, it's like a hot plate. And they just sit in the all-day sun for, you know, days on end. Absolutely appalling conditions down here. To think we're only like less than 10 minutes away from the city of, you know, actually, you know, the city of Phnom Penh, you know, Riverside, Walkway, where all the most expensive hotels are. We're only like less than 10 minutes away, and we're getting close to this bridge all the polystyrene and plastic bags in the sewer system that I did a former video on, so we're going to have a look at it. This is one of the areas they cook the shellfish. Absolutely appalling conditions, and you can see some, you know, the cooking equipment over here, and in the background you see modern Phnom Penh. You know, so we're right, you know, these are the fringe dwellers of Phnom Penh that actually living here illegally on land, and eventually they'll be forced off, you know. They don't own the land, they don't own anything, and they just build a house or a shack and they call it home, but one, you know, won't be long before, you know, they'll be pushed out and modern buildings put up and the sewer, open sewer canal covered over like they've done in the rest of Phnom Penh, covered over, and there'll be, you know, high-rise apartments here. Because modern Phnom Penh is expanding at a, you know, terrible rate. It's going further and further out in all directions, and soon it'll reach this area here, and this won't be here anymore. Absolutely appalling conditions around here, you know. Everything is just dumped. All their rubbish is just dumped on the ground. You know, and whole families live in this area through here. This is one of the big problems of Phnom Penh and almost, you know, like Asian countries, because the rubbish isn't picked up here. It's either thrown into just the open sewer system, which ends up in the Mekong River and then, you know, the world's oceans. But then there's people like this that just burn all their plastic bottles and the polystyrene, and, you know, they just burn it all. And the smoke is absolutely terrible, you know. And they'll burn this day and night, and I see a lot of people on Facebook complaining about, you know, the smoke from these fires that burn. They've got an apartment that's close to this area, and they're just burning everything, plastic bags, polystyrene, plastic bottles. And the smoke is toxic, you know, from all that polystyrene and plastic. Smoke is toxic, and I'm a little bit downwind at the moment. But they don't understand that, you know, breathing this in is good for their, you know, lungs. They have no idea. And some people actually cook on that, you know, they'll start a fire with plastic and polystyrene and cook on it, standing over and breathing in all the smoke. Now someone's building, you know, it's an illegal construction, you know, and illegal, and eventually one day they'll just come and pull it down and cover the sewer system over. But you can see what they've done with the floor. You know, it's just built out of just, you know, old timber, and someone's building themselves a house with scrap timber, but I'll show you what's underneath it, where they're going to live. Just tons of polystyrene and plastic bags and plastic bottles over the open sewer system. And it's got worse since I was here last time. And, you know, they'll put floorboards over there with gaps in between it, and then their bed will go on there, and then all that is right underneath their bed. Absolutely, the smell is absolutely shocking. And to think that people, you know, it's an illegal construction, you know, over some vacant land they found, and eventually this part of the sewer system will be covered over like they did in Phnom Penh, and then all this poverty land will be, you know, sold. But until then, they just live like this. And just having just corrugated iron on top of the roof. And that's what your outlook is. Looking out your bedroom window, you'll be looking onto that. These are, you know, people's homes, or what they call home. Their doors. And if I go around behind, you've got the bridge. And here's the back of those houses, I just, well, shacks, and well, they call them home, that they live on. And I go to the other side, and here's these houses that I did film last time. And in the distance you can see modern Phnom Penh city. So each year it's encroaching further and further into this poverty area, fringe dwellers. But since we had the last rain, there's a monk crossing the bridge. Since we had the last rain, it's actually got, you know, absolutely, you know, terrible, more pollution. Rubber tyres down there, rubber tubes, polystyrene, plastic bags. And this is just the open sewer flowing through. And that's that house someone's building a house, you know, over it. And this is what they have. They've got a window or whatever it is. We'll just look out onto this. And it's absolutely putrid smell. So you've got this alleyway here, and you've got the bridge that I just filmed with all the sewer, and then just down the end of the street, you know, you've got modern Phnom Penh. And it's getting closer and closer to these fringe dwellers, and eventually, you know, they'll be gone. So I walk down this alleyway here and have a look. So this lady has just given me permission to film inside her house. So we'll go and look out the back window. I must say that her washing looks really, really, you know, clean, you know, really beautifully washed. And but she's just living in the shack overlooking the sewer. Right, she's given me permission to film inside her house, so we'll just go and have a look at her house. Thank you. So this is the house with the window. Gotta be careful, don't fall in the sewer system. So this is her, you know, her the floor is so thin. And then her meagre possessions on the wall. And now we're going to look out that window. You know, this is her window. Looking out into the sewer system and the bridge, and the smell is absolutely terrible, Absolutely shocking. And then she's living in here. So I gain permission from everyone through a Khmer translator that we get in. And sometimes I give them like $1, you know, to just come and film inside the house, but that's what her window looks like, you know, appalling conditions. And, you know, the walls are all rusted up, and the rain would come in when it was raining. And that's looking out towards like the front door, but look under here, under her floorboards are all open here, and there's just the sewer just flowing underneath the house, and the stench is absolutely terrible. So it's really, you know, it's really the country that you're born in. The country that you're born in, you know, depends on how you live. You know, if you're born in Australia, New Zealand, Britain, Canada, you know, you wouldn't live like this. But if you're born in another country, Asian country, or some of the third world countries, you end up living like this. So it all depends on what country you were actually born in, or your parents are living in, is the way you end up living. And the heat in here would be terrible with just the iron roof, and it would leak when it rained because it's full of holes. You can see all the daylight coming through. That's the noise from the bridge next door. Now I'll go around and just show you the window I just filmed out of. And this is the window that I was just filming out of her, what she calls home, onto this. You know, me personally, you know, I'm concerned about all this rubber tyres and tubes and polystyrene and plastic bags and plastic bottles will finally end up in the Mekong River when it rains heavy, and it'll all be washed down further, and then it just ends up into the world's oceans. And we're only looking at you know, a 1% of 1% of the world's pollution. You know, this is just a fraction of what we're looking at. So we'll give them a cuppa chop each. You know. You know, they've probably never had one for a long, you know, ever. Probably their first one. So hopefully, but I got permission to film this family before I, you know, film them. I always get permission. Now this man's leading a really healthy lifestyle. It's 9 AM in the morning, and that's his breakfast down here. And a Cambodian beer and a cigarette at 9 AM in the morning. That's a good breakfast. And all the others over here are from the same family, all having breakfast here outside the house. There's one of the cuppa chops that I gave him. Cuppa chops that I gave him. And I've got permission to film this family. I'm not doing anything that I'm, you know, without without getting permission. They give him a cup of chop. These people live in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty. Absolutely terrible. Is that good? Good? Thank you. Thank you. I got permission from your mum over there in the red. Yeah, I got permission to film you. Your tongue's going, look. Put your tongue out. It's all blue. Yeah, it's going blue. Absolutely, appalling conditions when you can see the modern Phnom Penh just in the background there. So Phnom Penh's city is encroaching on this area, and eventually they're living here illegally and they'll just be forced off and just have nowhere to go. The poor got no money, they don't own the land, they don't own anything. So where they would go, no one knows. Just further out on the outskirts of Phnom Penh and build another community. You've got places like this that people call home, and absolutely terrible. And they just call home, and when it rains the roof would leak. And this one has actually got some town water here, but whether it's been purified or it's pure water coming through the system, I don't know. So we got like little baby here with the fan, and that's this is home. This is their home. Although they live in squalid conditions, you have to give them, 10 out of 10, for, cleaning their clothes, They live in extreme poverty, and what clothes they got, they look after, and they're very, very clean. It's just like you're looking at an English, or an Australian backyard clothesline. All the washing is absolutely spotless, and they really look after themselves. But then they live in places like this, but they take pride in, their clothing. Like this lady here, she's doing all the washing by hand and hanging it out, and just taking pride in, their clothing, but live in extreme poverty. So it's that's one of the good sides of it. See, someone calls this home in there. And this is their home, which they call home. So the word gets round. That, I'm giving out. You want one too? You've already got one. You've already got one. And has she got one? Do you give her one? Oh, I'll give her one. Here. There you are. Thank you. So the word gets round that I'm giving away candy to the poverty. Oh, there's another one coming out. But I think you already got one before. You got one before. Absolutely appalling conditions that they live in. But they do take pride in keeping their clothes clean. So, you got to give them 10 out of 10 for that. So once again, you see these people living in appalling conditions. And then you look in the background and see the modern Phnom Penh encroaching onto their territory or their land, which they're all living here illegally. And probably in the next 1 to 2 years they'll just be forced out. A new apartments built and the sewer system covered in. And in probably 2 or 3 years time you'll never ever knew this place was here. Probably by 2025 it'll be like, you know, this place never existed. And they call them the fringe dwellers. And if you're not sure on what fringe dwellers means, just Google search it. It's actually an Australian term and I'm Australian, so I use the word fringe dwellers. But every country in the world has fringe dwellers and you call them different names. But Phnom Penh is encroaching onto their, you know, poverty land. Do they go to school? Do they go to school? Do they go to school? No, they don't go to school. But you can see they're living in, you know, poverty, and once again, they've got really clean clothes on, you know, nice clothing. So their parents and their parents themselves, you know, actually look after. She's got really nice white pants, you know, really nice white pants, and she's living in, you know, filth and poverty. But her pants are, you know, white, and her jeans are white, I should say, her jeans. And, you know, they've been looked after and washed, so they, you know, they look after their clothing, although they live in extreme poverty. That's one thing. Like other countries, you know, they just walk around in rags, but here they look after their clothing. So it's good to see. So this is the mum with the girl with the, you know, the white jeans on. So she's got lots and lots of children, but live in extreme poverty. That window, well, it's not a window, it's just an opening, opens up onto the sewer drain that we've been looking at. But this is where mum and, you know, all the children call home. And once again, you have to give them 10 out of 10 for, you know, the way they look after their clothing, and they make sure their children are clothing is nice and clean. And so, you know, a lot of countries don't, where in Cambodia, you know, they would rather spend money buying some cheap clothing. You know, the clothing in Cambodia is really cheap, you know, like those white pants or that green top could be like, you know, less than $1. So mum could go without food for 2 days just to buy her daughter some clothing. But it's just extreme poverty, and the stench here is terrible. But you know, it's one of those things. Hopefully they eventually will find, you know, peace and better accommodation. Now everyone gathers aluminium cans, you know, everyone, and they need 80 empty cans to get $1 or 4,000 real in their own currency, or $1, and $1 equals 4,000 real in their currency. So they need to collect 80 cans, 80, to get $1. I'll come across another area that I'll go into And once again, you know, they're living in absolutely, you know, appalling conditions. And when you look down at what they do, you know, for their clothing, you know, but you can see she's probably doing a better job than, you know, a modern washing machine would do. You know, I don't think a modern washing machine would be as good as this. So that's probably why all the clothing looks really clean and white, because they put so much effort into cleaning it by hand. So once again, you have to give them, you know, 10 out of 10 for, you know, although they live in extreme poverty, they look after their clothing. This is another place, you know, with appalling conditions where they do all the shellfish here, and they live in, you know, extreme poverty. But we just look in the background, you know, and we've got modern Phnom Penh, everyone with air conditioning and modern furniture living. So eventually all this will be gone, and no record kept of it, of what it looked like, you know. So hopefully my YouTube videos will, you know, be a, you know, like a history lesson to what the slums or the slum dwellers used to live like before Phnom Penh encroached on their land and they were forced off. You know, and there's all the shellfish here being cooked, and absolutely poverty. And then up above you've got the modern Phnom Penh city encroaching onto the land, and then you come down to this. Here's another one getting a chopper cup. There you are. Okay, thank you. I got the mother's permission to film, but they live in absolutely extreme poverty. Absolutely terrible. You know, this is someone's house here, and look at the, you know, the rubbish is just dumped outside their front door. But then they have all the clean washing hanging on the line. But outside, right outside their door, you've got this. And then you've got the clean washing, even the kitchen mat has been cleaned. Yeah. But the living conditions here are absolutely appalling. And, you know, and the smell from the sewer system and sewer river is terrible. But as Phnom Penh expands, it, you know, a huge, you know, expanding, you know, each week further and further out into the suburbs. All this will be gone. You know, in this video, you know, people will be able to look back on this video and see high-rise apartments and modern hotels and streets and, you know, shopping malls where this once was. So hopefully this video will, you know, be like an archive for what the fringe dwellers lived like before modern Phnom Penh moved into their area. And once again, you can see a lady over there doing all her washing by hand, you know, doing a really good job. And they take pride in their clothing, although they live in extreme poverty. So we'll go further along this alleyway. You've got the open, you know, Phnom Penh sewer system. All the sewer flows out here, and you've got all that rubbish there. And it absolutely, well, the fringe dwellers' houses are here. As I said, if you don't know what fringe dwellers means, it's an Australian term, so just Google search it. But in the background you can see Phnom Penh approaching onto their land. And then you've got all the seafood getting dried in the sun right next to that down there. So I'll walk along this alleyway to the end of this house. Now this is an example of extreme poverty, you know, absolutely. But once again, hello, look how clean that laundry is. Absolutely spotless. Because they wash it by hand and really do a really good job, and they're living in absolutely poverty, but the washing is, you know, better than a washing machine like doing in any, you know, Australia, New Zealand, any European country. Absolutely spotless, but they live in absolute poverty. And if I just swing round, this is what they look onto. You know, the stench is absolutely terrible. And then in the distance you've got modern Phnom Penh encroaching onto their, you know, these shacks, which they call home. Absolutely, the stench here is absolutely terrible. You know, I get pretty upset when you see people living like this that try really, really, really hard. And, you know, once again, you know, you look at this washing there, you know, it's absolutely, you know, absolutely spotless washing. You know, not one stain, not one mark on it. And it's all been hand washed, you know, individually. Yeah. Yeah, she's hanging it in the sun right over the, you know, the open sewage system. Put it in the sun. Here she is here. You know, and this is what she looks out on. You know, sitting on your back porch, and you look out onto that. I don't know. Absolutely appalling conditions. You know, and the cats are everywhere. They're just wild. And yes, they do. If they haven't got enough money, you know what they're going to do to them. They do. See, they have no respect for, you know, and when they're not pets, they just run wild. See, just, and they'll end up eaten one day. like the dogs and the cats. You know, if you're starving, you know, the people in, you know, the Western countries are watching this now, like, you know, Australia, New Zealand, America, you know, England, Europe. Be thinking, oh, you know, how can you, you know, eat a dog or a cat? But, you know, in the Second World War, in Italy and, you know, all the countries, Holland, Netherlands, France, they ended up eating horses and dogs and cats to survive. So unless you're been through starving, you know, absolutely starving, not like they haven't had a McDonald's hamburger since yesterday, that's not starving, you know. That's when you haven't eaten for, you know, days, a week, that you'll turn to, you know, cats and dogs and even rats. So you should never judge a, you know, never judge a book by its cover. You know, you have to walk in their shoes, walk in their, you know, footsteps to understand what living in poverty is really like, rather than saying, oh, how could you eat a cat, how could you eat a dog, or, you know, eat a horse. You know, it's just, you know, you have to walk in their shoes. If you haven't, then you can't really criticise or what they do. Yeah, you've got chickens, you know, living in the house, and there'll be food when they get desperate. They don't eat them until they get really, really, really desperate for food, and they haven't sold any shellfish or sold anything and they've got no food. They'll turn to the chickens, and then the next thing is the cats and the dogs. But until they become really, really, you know, starving, like when COVID-19 was here and no tourists were here, they all did it really, really hard, so had to turn to cats, dogs, or anything they could get their hands on to eat to survive. So I'm almost up to an hour, so I'll have to finish, but you got poverty here, absolutely. People live in, you know, the most extreme poverty. I'm about to show you something in a minute, just wait. So you got people living in, you know, absolutely poverty. You know, someone lives in here, there's just nothing, they've got a padlock on the door. And you've got the washing here, and then you've got someone living here. And I did ask about the water. Sometimes it comes out brown and sometimes it comes out clean, so they don't really know where the water's coming from. So whether it's coming from the filtration plant or another system, don't really know. But I'll just turn around and show you what's on the other side of the river. When I put my camera down, someone is passing and I haven't had permission to film them, so I put my camera down, you know, ground level. But look at that down there. And I'm going to move the camera up and show you what's on the other side of this extreme poverty. You know, you've got modern Phnom Penh, and the only thing that's stopping the encroachment is this open sewer system. And once they do all, put the pipes in and cover it over, then Phnom Penh will extend into this area we've been filming now. And so you've got this here, and the stench is absolutely terrible. And then you've got the baby sitting, you know, on what most people call their porch, you know, at home, and this is here. and probably in the next, I should say, in the next 2 to 3 years, all that'll be covered in 5 years, and Phnom Penh will approach into this area here. So hopefully this is, you know, a record of what Phnom Penh used to look like in 2022, and when 2025 or 2030 comes, then this will be like a record of what used to be here. Because you know, I've never seen this area on YouTube before. We're in the extreme, you know, fringe dwellers poverty area, and hopefully these children will have, you know, a better future. But it's sad to see them living like that, to thinking that they look over into, you know, the modern Phnom Penh where children, you know, go to school and got bicycles and play video games and got colour TV and got all the Moncons. Their parents got a car, and just a few hundred metres away people live like this. Yeah, just so I'll end it here. It's up to an hour. So this is Mystery Cambodia signing off from Phnom Penh, where the fringe dwellers live on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. And I'll leave all my comments and all my details down below, my WhatsApp number and my contact details. And if you want to know any more about this video or other of my videos on YouTube, then just contact me and I'll let you know if you're coming to Cambodia or you want to move to Cambodia to live, or you want to know coming here for a holiday and you want to know anything about this area or other parts I've done in Phnom Penh, just send me a message and, you know, I'll fill you in all the details if you send me a WhatsApp message. So this is Mystery Cambodia signing off from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And thank you. Please like and subscribe. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.